All right, back for part two here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write a program that calculates the slope. All right, so that's gonna be my function. Is gonna be slope. Often our our functions and procedures have a verb in them, like it's calc slope or something like that. But I think just slope is fine. Um, and I'm going to leave the parameters for a second here because to calculate the slope, we actually need, well, we need 2 points to calculate the slope. But what's it going to return? It's going to return a real number. And I want to, before I get too far, I'm going to put in my end slope here. And then I want to fill in the details. Well, my point, I'm going to have two x coordinates and two y coordinates, right? So I'm going to make them integers for now, by the way. Then y1 is an integer, and x2 is an integer, and y2 is an integer. Little math lesson here. Um, what does that look like? Looks good so far. So um, notice I'm going to put in a new calculation. Um, I could put it in a new variable. I'm going to call it calc slope, maybe something like that. And then it's going to be a real number. And I'm actually going to, what's the, I could call it m. Let's call it m instead because that's mathy, isn't it? M is the slope. And it's going to be a real number. And m equals, what's the formula? It's y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? And then I'm going to, result is going to be m. I'm going to return that. Right now, if I run it, let's see if I got any errors so far. No, finished execution, no errors, but it didn't do anything. Remember that in my main function, my main program, I need to actually call this, right? So I'm going to put I should have a header up here. This function calculates slope. Main program. So I'm going to put the slope is, and then I'm going to, in here, I'm going to put my function call, slope. Now notice if I just did that, it's going to give me an error. Missing parameters in sub-program slope. So I actually have to put in some parameters. My first point is going to be 1, 2, and then say 5, 7, something like that. And let's see what the slope of that is. 1.25. And so notice that if I wanted to, I could use this subprogram, this slope function, as many times as I wanted to. Will it work with negatives? It should be. It should, because negatives are integers. There we go. Dandy, it works fine. Notice I could, if I wanted to, use parameters in here. So use variables. So var x ball, for instance, is 100. And so I could put that in my, that value, which is 100 equals 100, gets passed to the function call. And so it takes the place of x1. Notice that slope's really small, and that's all good. A thing I'm going to point out, and this is a bit strange, is if I wanted to print out the value of x1, put x1, you see how x1 actually exists only in this function. This is the main program. My program isn't going to know, even if I run this, what x1 has not been declared. You say, oh, but it's right there. No, because this exists only in the function. This is called the scope of that variable. The scope of that variable is only in that function. Same as if I were to try and print out the slope m there. It's not declared. Its scope is right here. However, just to make things a little more confusing, what happens if I were to try and print out x ball in here? statement will not be, oh yeah, okay, hang on. The result statement actually ends the function, so I got to put it on the other side. I goofed that up. X ball has not been declared. So again, it's not the scope of the of X ball is right here. Okay, so it's saying I don't know what that is either. Be careful if you get that sort of error when you start using subprograms that the things are communicating with each other. X ball doesn't exist because it's not one of these variables that we have in our function. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all that other crud, get back to my good program that still worked. That looks okay. And then I'm going to snapshot that, snapshot that, and put it in my program or my note. Okay, dandy. There's my example. Hopefully you're following along and trying this question yourself. Procedures. I'm going to go quickly through procedures, I hope. What's the difference between a procedure? Remember, a procedure doesn't return a value. So notice that it kind of looks the same. The keyword is procedure. There's no result keyword, and there's no colon type on the back. I could have as many parameters as I wanted to or not. That's it. So this procedure just does a bunch of stuff. And remember, we'd still have to call the procedure to get it to work. We can call a function or procedure multiple times in a loop or even from another subprogram. So for instance, and I'm going to do this one quick. I've got this one worked out already. So, and I can have as many functions in my program as I want to. So for instance, I'm going to put a new function in here, and I'm going to call it a procedure. It's going to call happy, and it's going to have no parameters, and end happy. And what I'm going to do is, and I've worked this out already because it took a little bit of stuff. This code here. I'll show you what it does in a second. Indent. It's drawing a bunch of shapes, and you can just guess what it's going to do. And notice if I just call the function happy, then it's going to do all this stuff. And if I wanted to, I could do it again at the end. Maybe I'll put a little clear screen in there, delay by half a second, and then clear screen and draw my happy face again. So, bam, there it is. And then cleared the screen, and then it did it again. Now, let's maybe I'll put a little more delay in there so we can see what happened. There's my slope calculations. There's my happy face. Cleared the screen, printed another happy face. So this I could call as many times as I wanted to. And you can just picture that if I had parameters in here that changed the position of the happy face, that it could be, well, it could be moving all over the screen if I wanted to. And notice I could have a function or procedure in my program that I don't call. There, just the slope one was called. This procedure was there, but it never executed. Even though all this code was there, it wasn't executed because I commented out the function call. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment that out, put a little space in there, and this is my other program I want to show the example of a procedure. So I'm going to snapshot that. And then I'm certain you're going to have some exercises so you can practice your function and procedure writing skills. So have fun with that.